Hi there, everybody. In this video, I'll discuss Phase 5, which is regarded as the most horrific of all. Let's start with Veneria, who in the early stages became infected with a parasite that started to grow inside her body, draining her life energy and eventually killing her until only her head remained. As you may know, there are only 2 phases in the official game. I propose that Phases 3 and 4 could be parallel realities where the fate of many Spoonies was even harsher and their suffering more agonizing. The parasite has nearly completely consumed Venera's body in the new phase, and eventually a lot of eyes appear. I think this parasite may be using them for attack or defense because it wants to stay in her body forever. Ratty killed himself by hanging because he had obsessive thoughts, or maybe after seeing his friends die. I think Wenda may have been the one who told him he was worthless and should end his life. Wenda removed Ratty's skin and gouged out his eyes when he passed away. In Phase 5, Ratty has nearly lost all of his skin, and his head is cracked from his motions, indicating that he has gone utterly insane. Let's now discuss Gray. At first, he was able to survive by hiding, but he saw one of Wenda's murders. Despite their friendship, Wenda couldn't let Gray live because he saw something he shouldn't have seen. Wenda struck Gray on the head with a stick, and although he survived, he was seriously injured. Unfortunately, in Phase 5, he suffered even more severe injuries and became insane. Jevin. If you follow his changes from Phases 3 to 5, you'll notice that he's become even darker and more enigmatic, which supports the fact that he's a cultist and probably now a part of one. In Phase 5, he's missing his eyes, which he may have sacrificed as part of a ritual offering. What happened to Wenda? We all know that she was manipulated by Black or Jeff and developed a bloodthirsty nature. By Phase 3, she had completely lost her mind and was useless to Black and Jeff. In Phase 5, we observe that Wenda has no eyes or jaw, most likely as a result of Mafia torture, after Black struck a deal with a member of the Colorbox Mustard Mafia and they killed her. Wenda tore Orin apart in Phases 3 and 4. Orin's face was severely wounded, as if it had been torn apart, and it appears that Wenda used her claws to do this. In Phase 5, we observe that he jerks around a lot, most likely in pain, or that his body has gone green, potentially as a result of Venera's infection spreading to him. Durpal. Looking at Phases 3 and 4, it's evident that the creator acknowledged that his skin is so elastic that he probably overstretched his jaw and broke the joint. In Phase 5, his face and body stretch significantly, and at one point he hides. Why do you think he does that? Funbot probably noticed that the majority of his friends were in states of panic, death, or despair, which made him afraid and possibly even depressed. In Phase 3, his mouth resembles Black's face. In Phase 4, Brood was subjected to a vicious series of attacks, including a confirmed bite from Simon, but amazingly, he felt no pain and survived. I believe Black may have attempted to influence Funbot, but it appears Funbot didn't want to turn to the dark side and preferred to shut down permanently. When Simon saw how resilient Brew was, he bit him again, sinking his teeth into his body to cause more damage. Amazingly, Brood survived this second attack, but by Phase 5, his condition has significantly deteriorated as he is ripped to tiny dispersed pieces, most likely by Simon's strong, merciless teeth. However, Geralt met a terrible end at the hands of Wenda, who brutally tightened his robotic glasses to such an extent that the lenses were broken by the intense pressure. As a result, his lips and left eye sustained major injury from the force and the shards. Wenda proceeded to further injure Geralt by slicing his body and smashing his skull. By Phase 5, his form has significantly degraded, his eyes are completely gone, and his body is horribly crushed and distorted. These relentless attacks also produced a malfunction in his system that colored his eyes an ominous crimson. Oxax also suffered a horrible death. As Phase 5 progresses, Wenda's trauma becomes even more apparent with additional indications of severe injuries. Wenda caused him much anguish by tearing off sections of his face and body, resulting in significant disfigurement and even the loss of an eye. The character's constant terror and harshness of his suffering seem to be overwhelming him with fear, as seen by his visible trembling. In Phase 5, a new transformation takes place when Black takes control of Skye. She now has a single large eye, a dark and menacing feature reminiscent of the eyes frequently seen in the sky, which gives her a demonic, unsettling appearance. Skye suffered a terrible death at the hands of Wenda, who pierced her body with 4 rods, caused severe injuries that ultimately led to her demise. But Wenda's brutality didn't stop even after Skye was obviously mortally wounded. On to Mr. Sun. I had previously thought that Black might have corrupted him and perhaps forced him to become an accomplice, but after carefully analyzing phases 3, 4, and 5, I can now state with confidence that Black was in fact responsible for this change. There is no denying Black's impact. Many demonic eyes have now covered Mr. Sun's body, giving him uncanny otherworldly appearance. The very fact that these eyes are scattered around his body like sinister symbols indicates that Black's influence has completely corrupted him. The narrative of Mr. Tree is equally terrible and incredibly disturbing. At first, he was possessed by the soul of a young girl who used his life energy while his face was pinned to a missing person sign. This caused him to feel guilty for her death all the time. But as time went on, Black became aware of Mr. Tree's weakening state and started to instill malevolent, dark ideas in his head. This mental anguish gradually changed him, converting his once green body into a gloomy, darkened figure. Eventually, the missing person poster disappeared, signifying that his guilt and all trace of kindness had been removed. By phase 5, Mr. Tree's loyalty to Black is evident. His body is now covered in the same demonic eyeballs that others have seen, and he emanates a disturbing aura. His sounds have also become more menacing, further demonstrating his decline into darkness. In phase 3, we see someone in Simon's mouth, as if he had eaten someone and was unable to swallow them. But in phase 4, he was able to do so after he struggled to resist the overwhelming want to eat. Look at the green tape on his mouth. It appears that they taped it shut so that other Sprunki wouldn't hear his screams. In phase 5, he has gotten bigger and his voice is quite pleased. I believe he is content to eat other Sprunki tuner. Wenda shot him at least twice more and tortured him. In phase 5, there are serious wounds and a skull fracture. He sounds like he's pleading for help in his music. Mr. Fun Computer knows too much, but he survived, and he most likely saw something horrible and wants to share it with us. In order to prevent us from discovering the truth, Black eventually found him and broke him totally. In phase 5, the screen separates from the figure, revealing a face. Black may have taken over Mr. Fun Computer's body, Pinky, who was incredibly kind and probably knew something she wasn't supposed to know. Black or Wenda most likely threatened her, killed her after faking her face because they were afraid she would reveal them. We can observe severe brain injuries in phase 5, including the loss of one eye and no ears. I believe that something heavy may have fallen on Clever, breaking his skull and flattening his head into a thin plate. In phase 5, the impact was so severe that his eyes fell into his mouth. Clever is passionate about construction, and his death was merely an accident while they were building something in their city. Now that I've explained everything, do you think this game may have a parallel reality? Please share your ideas in the comments section.